Okay.
Good morning, everybody. This is Jack Steinkamp for MicroCAD. Welcome to the overview of MicroCAD Live for Ford North America. You can see it right now. We're at the login screen, and obviously you're going to need credentials to get here. You're going to have to get the URL and your username and password. They'll be assigned to you when you sign up for MicroCAD Live. Now, at this screen, we're going to type in our password. And from the login page, we're going to go to what's called the landing page. I want to take a second to explain the landing page. The landing page is going to have all the applications that you purchase from us that are online. You can see we do a lot of things here other than the Ford catalog. So anything that you buy from us online will be in an application list on the right-hand side. Just as important, though, on the left-hand side is information that we want to make sure you're aware of. We want to make sure that you get certain information about the products that you're able to use. So you need to get in the habit of looking excuse me, on the left-hand side to see what kind of news that we're trying to show to the users. And if you scroll down, you'll see there's see and learn video clips so you can do training at home, DMS integration, other products that we have. Now, you're going to find your application on the right-hand side. Yours will be a little simpler than this. You won't have quite as many. And we're going to go to MicroCAD Live Ford USA Passenger Light Medium Duty Truck. So the process is login page, landing page, and then you click Start to go into Live. And as this is loading up, I'll give you a little background on myself. I spent about 30 years upstate New York, large family-owned auto group with 11 different franchises. I was also part of the design team in 2009, spent some time with our developers in Australia when we decided to upgrade the MicroCAD DVD version to the MicroCAD Online version. So I've got quite a bit of experience with in-parts. Any questions that anybody has, just feel free to ask it at any point. Now, when we come into MicroCAD Live, we come into what we call the Step 1 Identify Vehicle page, sort of like a home page. And from a real high level, this is like standing back and looking at the bookcase full of catalogs. And you can see there's 126 books in that bookcase, and they represent a Ford Motor Company vehicle platform from 1980 to 2013. Now, when you come into this page, there's a little tip for you. If you press your F11 function key, you'll make MicroCAD Live as large as it can be for your browser, and that F11 key should work in Firefox, Chrome, Internet Explorer. And then everything is a little bit bigger, everything's a little easier to see. When you come into this page, when you're looking at the bookcase, your cursor is automatically going to be up in the search by field. And that's where you enter a VIN. And let's talk about the ways that you can put a VIN into MicroCAD Live. You can use the last 6 digits and the last 7 digits. Now, obviously, you probably wouldn't encounter that often, but you can use them if that's what happens. If you have if that's all you have, you would be able to put those in. You would get a table of vehicles because the 6 or 7 is a true numerical sequence of assembly, and a lot of different models would end with those. So you'd have multiple vehicles you have to pick from a list. You can use your last 8, and you'll always get, or 99.999% of the time, get one vehicle. You copy and paste from other Windows software. You have a history list of successful VIN searches that you can always go back to. And probably the newest, most innovative way that no other catalog does is partial VIN from left to right. As long as you have 7 digits or more, you can enter a partial VIN. So if your tech or advisor comes up to the parts counter and they've got a big greasy thumbprint on the last 3 digits of that 17-digit VIN, you can only read 14. You can put 14 in, and you'll get probably 2 or 3 vehicles, and you have to pick from them. I'm going to pick a VIN from the history list. This one here at the top ends with 549. That's actually my truck. I actually drive this truck. It's an 07 F-150 Lariat. I'm going to click it and watch what happens. And this would occur whether you did a manual entry, last date, or from the history list. It automatically decodes on the screen, and it automatically, from a high level, changes from the bookcase to the book. Now we're in the book for this particular VIN. But it does something else, too. It pops your cursor up into the search by box, automatically selects basic number, and automatically displays the graphic index, as well as all the VIN information on the left-hand side. Now, we know at this point that there's only 2 ways you can find a part. You can utilize the search functionality at the top, put in your known input, select the type of search that you would want from this drop-down, and there's quite a few different combinations of the ways you can search here. So you can either use the search input functionality at the top if you know your basic number, your cal code, or whatever. And if you don't know that, you've got to go to an illustration to pull your part out. We display the graphic index. So we don't make you look for this, and go to other screens and everything else. As soon as you decode the VIN, we get you into search-ready mode. So now let's do 19712. So step 1 is your VIN decode. Step 2 is your basic number and enter. And in 2 steps, you're at single part level. Now, there are only 3 screens in MicroCat Live, too, so it's a very simple way to operate. We've gone from step 1 to step 2. We've gone from identify the vehicle, which was the first screen, that home page situation. We've done our initial search from there, and we're at now screen 2, which is search results grid, and that's under select parts. And you can see here's all the information about that particular part number. And if I don't need to see the illustration, which is screen 3 in the last screen, then I'm all done. So enter your VIN, enter your basic, click enter, 2 steps, you're at single part level. And if I do need to see the illustration, anytime I have a camera icon right here, I just click that, and I'm going to display the illustration of that particular part. I'm at screen 3. Now you've seen all the screens that are in the catalog. Now, even though there's only 3 screens, very simple navigation, each one of these screens and even the panels within these screens are full of functionality that I'm going to show you now. Let's get rid of the part data card. We're going to talk about that later. And let's go back some steps. Now, there's 2 ways of going back. If I click identify the vehicle, I go back to the bookcase, and I'm going to then my truck will be gone, and you'll end up being able to select another vehicle. If I want to go back through the vehicle, I click the back level button right here, and I'm going back through my graphic indexes until I come to my major graphic index and my search functionality. And actually, my search functionality and my filter remains on every single screen, so it's always accessible to us. We don't have to go anywhere else to find it. Now, the only thing missing is my VIN details, and to see the VIN details, anytime I have the car icon right here, all I do is I click it. I don't lose my work area. I just slide the panel back, uncover my VIN details. So if I'm in the data and I need to learn something about the VIN, maybe it's with or without adjustable pedals or whatever, I just click the car icon, I uncover the VIN details, and I want to make my work area bigger, I click it again and I slide it back. So we're really in the same screen, we're just altering the screen. So let's click it, uncover the VIN details, and let's talk about what's going on in this VIN pane. Well, the first thing is, excuse me, you see the VIN in full at the top, you see the build date and the model year, then you see the major attributes. And this is my truck, it's a 150. 5.4 crew cab, Lariat, all the way down to 373 trailer towing, 179 short box. So it's everything you need to know about the vehicle, and these major attributes are going to be all tied to interpretation. But that's not the only tab here. We have a minor features tab, and what we're doing now is we're breaking down the vehicle further into smaller pieces and giving us more information so that we can find the correct part. And the nice thing about the way we've done the minor features in MicroCat Live is that they're in a true alphanumeric sort. So your numeric values are first. Here's a spring code and left rear spring code, 18 by 7.5 polished wheels, 07. So your numerics are first. Then all your rest of your minor features are in alphabetical order. So if somebody wants to see does Jack's truck have adjustable pedals, there it is. Adjustable pedals and C color keyed steering wheel, dark gray, all the way down the flow-through console with armrest. If we go to VISIS features right here, this is a feature that no other catalog has. VISIS stands for the Vehicle Component Identification System, and that came out like in 1989, late 89. And anytime we can bring a code back from the VISIS VIN code, and we can link that to a part number, a section, parts list, associated parts, we'll let you click on that code and then just automatically go to it. So it's almost like one-stop shopping where you don't have to know basic numbers or anything. If you got a code, your code is live, you can go directly to the part number or the section that you want to go to. Now, here's what you need to remember about VISIS. Before 89, there was no VISIS, so it's called a legacy cars data, and all you got was a simple VIN code, year, make, model, engine size. When you got to 89 to like 2003, some 2003 vehicles, you had the first generation of VISIS that used parts lists and calibration lists. My truck happens to be a GCAT vehicle, global catalog format, and they don't use parts lists or calibration codes. So watch what happens. If I click on the front axle code, because they don't use parts lists in the newer vehicles, it didn't do anything wrong. It's just not going to show me that. So if you're looking for 4215s, which would traditionally in an older vehicle be in a parts list, on the newer ones, that 4215 is going to execute this straight basic number. But when this does work, watch what happens. It's really amazing. Let's say we want a left-hand mirror for my truck, and we have somebody that's new that doesn't know it's a 17682 or 17683. All you need to do is get the VIN decode, go down to mirror outer, left-click on it one time, and it's going to take you to the mirror, the part number for the mirror, which is 7L3Z Frank Baker, and everything hanging off the mirror. So it didn't just identify the mirror itself, it identified 11 other parts that are in that section. So that VISIS code is an amazing feature that really helps out a lot when it works. Now let's go back. I'll show you one more. If you were to consider looking up a drive shaft for an F-150 truck, you would, that's a difficult lookup even for an experienced person. But if you go down to the shaft ID and click on it, you're going to go right there. You're going to have your part number. You're going to have your illustration. You're going to have the drive shaft. You're going to have the U-joints. You're going to have everything associated with it, the flanges, the housing, all that. So when the VISIS information works, especially in the newer vehicles, it's a really fast way to get some of the most common and some of the most complicated lookups in a single click. Now let's click the show vehicle information again and continue. The last one here is VIN decode information, which is higher level stuff like super crew, hydraulic, 8-cylinder, things like that. So you have an awful lot of information about the VIN when it comes back, and it's just amazing. You're going to know more from the VIN decode of MicroCAD Live about the vehicle than the actual vehicle owner does. Now let's talk about the other functionality that is in the VIN pane right here. At the bottom, we have the ability to add notes. We have the ability to add two types of notes. We have the ability to add a catalog note and a VIN note. And we just select whichever one we want, and we type the text of the note in. And as soon as we type the text in, as soon as we type a digit in, save becomes live. And when we click save, what will happen a second later is on your screen you will see a yellow flag pop up. And here's the VIN notes. Now, cloud computing is one of the major pieces of MicroCAD Live. It's one of the major benefits that you get. And what that means is certain things are left on our server, and the benefit you have from that is that they are automatically shared amongst users. So that the minute that this note icon pops up on my screen, it also pops up on everyone else's screen in the dealership. We have you put into a group, and anything that is shared in the cloud is automatically shared in the group. These notes are going to be accessible anytime, anywhere, with any type of connection, 3G, 4G, wireless, sitting at Burger King or Starbucks. You'll be able to get online. You'll be able to see the things that are in the cloud, and they'll be accessible on any device that has Android operating system to it. Now, down at the bottom, too, we have the ability to quickly email or print the VIN details right here. So if I click one of these icons, a print preview type screen is going to pop up. It shows me what it's going to look like, and I have the ability to click email, and we will then use our email server that's in the cloud. There'll be no setup for you. You'll be able to do that. It'll keep a history list of emails that you've used here, and you put your subject, your to information, and you click send, and it'll automatically be sent to your customer. So it's very simple to do. If you click the print button, you're going to bring up an Adobe Acrobat file, PDF file, portable document file, and you'll be able to email from here. The difference is that then you're going to be using your email client in the dealership so that you have an address book or something that you want to use from the dealership. You'll be able to access it there. Now, we're outside the catalog, and this is not a catalog screen. It's a print screen. And anytime you're outside of the catalog, like in a locator or print formats or things like that, you want to get back to where you need to go, you just close the window. So you hit your X right here, close the tab, and you're going to be right back to this window that popped up. You close that, and you're right back to where you started from. So anytime you're outside the catalog, just close the windows, and it's like a back button. Now, at the bottom here, we also have what's called a customer tag. And simply put, a customer tag gives you the ability to decode the VIN one time, then rename the VIN anything you want to, and then never have to use 17-digit VIN again. It's really good for fleets, like if you have ABC delivery, and they've got 20 E450 Econoline vans. You know, they have their own internal stock number on that vehicle. They have their identifier, like we have stock numbers on our new used cars. So Billy comes in one day and says, Billy, what truck you got? You got J22s. So you decode the VIN and you name it J22. We'll do right at the bottom. You click Save, and you'll see that it's been saved. Now, if we click Identify the Vehicle and we get rid of my truck, your customer tags are utilized underneath where the VIN is. So if I type in J22, so Billy comes in a month from now, and what truck do you have? I got J22. I don't have to ask him for the VIN. I can put that in there. I can click Search, and it's going to pop that vehicle back up based on the new name I gave for the VIN. Now, customer tags are also in the cloud, so they're shared amongst users, amongst locations, amongst devices. It's a really good feature. Let's say you have Billy working at the dealership on Thursday night, and he gets stuck, and he calls the boss at home and says, man, I can't find this part. I got customers going on vacation tomorrow. What do I do? Well, right now, because you know, with other catalogs, you don't have access to the cloud, you'd have to actually maybe go in and help Billy out. With this, you could say, Billy, just tag that VIN and tell me what the tag is. Log on at home, and you'd bring up the same vehicle on the screen that Billy's working on at the dealership. Likewise, if you had the fleet working on J22 on their lift, they could say, geez, we're working on J22, and you can bring up on your screen the vehicle that they have up on the lift. So customer tags are pretty cool to use. They're always going to be found underneath the VIN. And if you click the little button right here, you'll get a list of all your customer tags. And you can have thousands and thousands of them because they're not, they don't take up much room. They're very small files, and they're always accessible from that list right there. Now, the other type of search, let's click Identify Vehicle and get it out of my truck. The other type of search that's common is a model year search, and that's what's done in the catalog search right here. There's 3 fields, and to be honest with you don't really have to use them all, but I'll explain what they do. Keep in mind, again, we're looking at this bookcase with 126 vehicles, and if we want to reduce the size of the bookcase, just like trucks, we just dropped it down to 55, because you can select them from the right-hand side of the screen right here. Now we're going to go to year. Let's get an older vehicle. Let's go to an 01. We'll go to the old B model Explorer, and we'll bring that up, and you'll see the same thing is going to happen. We're going to pop up the vehicle. We're going to put our cursor in the basic number field. We're going to display the graphic index. So we're in search-ready mode, whether we're going to use the search functionality at the top or whether we're going to go to an illustration and pull the part out. Now, I do want to mention here, at any index, we have a little icon to the right here. And some people that have been in the business a long time are used to having the old 10, 20, 30, 40 sections. And in the newer vehicles, that's a little bit more complicated, so graphic is a little bit probably more used in GCAT vehicles. In the older vehicles, text was used a little bit more. So here's the button to change that. Just click on it, and it's going to change it back to the old sections like they had in the, or way back to the paper catalog and Microfiche. And if we click it again, we'll switch back to the text mode. Now the filter is going to work no matter what mode you're in. If I want engine parts, I can type in ENG, or I can type 60, and that's going to give me 60, 160, and 600 fenders. So no matter what mode you're in, your filter is always going to work to filter those. Now I showed you on my truck, the 19712, how you can look up one single, part number, and you decode the VIN. Step 1, Step 2 is single part level based on your basic number search. But with MicroCat Live, you can enter as many as 15 basic numbers at a time. And let's pull a list, pull something out of the history list right here. And we'll pull this 3280, because you're always going to have a history list of all your search types here. We're on basic number. So here's my last 20 successful searches by basic number. I'm going to take this 3280, 16612, 6079, 19712, and door, and I'm going to pop that up into the list. Here's the sequence for multiple basic number search. Basic number space, basic number space, basic number space. It works differently in older vehicles. In older vehicles like this Explorer, it's going to go directly to part numbers. In newer vehicles like GCAT, if all your basic numbers are in the same section, like 16612, 16700, it's going to show you part numbers. But if you have 16612, 13008, 19712, it's going to show you the sections first, so there's one more step. But it's really cool. Watch what happens. I click search. I'm going to have all my part numbers. Here's my 3280, my rod. Here's my gasket set. Here's my hood. Here's my AC condenser. Here's my door. Real simple. It doesn't get any faster than that. The reason I'm in this screen, though, is I want to talk about the lookup feature over here, which is used on the older vehicles mostly. It's used a little bit in GCAT vehicles, but in the older ones, this is kind of prevalent. If we look at the 3280 right here, it says parts list restrictions 35.1, parts list 35.1, no part number. And actually, 35.1 is not a parts list. This has always been really slightly incorrect. 35.1 is a group of parts lists. The actual parts list is going to be 35.1 dash something. So let's go over here to the lookup field, and there's two icons here. We have a green note icon. If I touch that, that's a Ford Motor Company note. And anytime you see a yellow icon, it's coming from a user. Anytime you see a green icon, it's coming from the manufacturer, and that's the same in all of our Microcat Live products, whether it's Toyota, Hyundai, Land Rover. Yellow is user, green is manufacturer. But now, to the right of that, we have another square yellow icon that says part component. Now, what this is telling you is that the 3280 that you have no part number for is a component of a parts list, and the only way you're going to get to the right 3280 is to access the correct parts list. So how do we get there? How do we do all that? It sounds complicated. It's really not. We're going to click the yellow square, and it's going to take us to the list of possible parts lists. And you'll see we have warranty eligible 4-door, warranty eligible 2-door. Obviously, this car is an 01, so it's not in warranty. So we have a warranty eligible 4-door, warranty eligible, or retail 2-door and retail 4-door. So let's say we identify this parts list as it's a 2-door and it's retail. Now, how do we get to the part? We click on parts list, and it's going to open up the proper parts list. Now, and our 3280 is going to rise right to the top here. Here's our 57Z 3280AA. So just follow the yellow icons. Pick the proper parts list. Keep in mind that if you don't have a VIN and you're in an older vehicle and you want like a 4204, cage assembly, or 4209 ring gear, you're going to have the listings for all. I mean, you could have 100 different axles, and then you might need a code, and you'd filter the code right here. Let's go back, and our last successful search always stays in that window. So let's rerun that search again. We'll talk about the next icon right here. Refer to group 3V280. What it's telling you is that since this vehicle came out, there's a value line group, cheaper motorcraft alternate market parts. How do you get there? Well, you have an icon right here. It says refer to group. You just click it. It's going to take you and display the F57Z 3V280AA, which is the value line part for the 3280. Let's rerun the search again, and let's go down to the gasket kit. F6TZ 6079 Baker. Actually, it's not replaced anymore. But the reason I'm showing you this is the icon right here. It says kit part grouping. Anytime Ford Motor Company has something that they've designated as a kit, we're going to let you open up that box or open up that bag and see what's in it just by clicking this icon. So if I want to see the gaskets that come in that valve grind set, I click this icon. It's going to pop up, and here's everything that's going to be in that bag. Now let's click it again and go back to the same list and talk about the other icons here. Our OSI, we want to make sure we show you that. Anytime you have something in the OSI column, you click on it, and it's going to show you the newer and the older part. So F57ZAA is AU2ZA. I suppose you don't really have to click on it if it says NR because it's not replaced. But anytime you have something here, that means that there's additional replacement part information. If I go down to the air conditioner core right here, I've got a yellow user note, and it just says test. It's a test note. If I go to the door, F87Z 7820124AA, I've got a hand icon. The hand icon is pointing to the right because it's a right-hand part number. Now, this isn't used in the newer vehicles, but the older vehicles is quite handy. Let's say somebody comes in and says, "Hey, Jack, you got a left-hand tail light for my 01 Escort?" And you look it up, and you go upstairs, and you bring it down, and you say, "I tell you left, I meant right." Well, the hand icon would be there, and if you click that hand icon, it's going to match the opposite side. So you didn't have to really look it up again. So now we're on the left-hand door, and if you want the other side, you just click it again, and you go back, and you'll match the right-hand door. So that hand icon is an automatic opposite side interpretation used in the older vehicles. That's why we spend a little time on that lookup screen, because all these icons actually do mean different things. They're important to see. Now let's go back and let's pick my truck up again and get into a VIN-specific vehicle. Now let's go to screen 2 and talk about the search results grid. I want to look up an alternator. A couple ways I could do that. I could go to Visa's information right here. I could click on the charge alternator and bingo, I'd be right at that, right at the alternator in one step. However, that would be the alternator for the truck the day it came off the assembly line in Dearborn. That's an identification number for the assembly part number. So if there's a newer alternate part number, reman, or anything else, I would not see it by clicking on that number. So I got to be a little bit careful. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. 10346 alternate. See, because it's in the list, it pops up for me. And I'm going to search on it. And we're going to go to the search results grid, and we do have two alternators here, 110 amp new, 110 amp warranty. Now let's talk about what's going on in this grid. If I want to put this part into the order list, which is it's just like an electronic scratch pad that holds my lookups in preparation to output them. All I do is I put a check mark by the part. The text of the part changes color to indicate that it's in the list, and the check mark there shows me that it's in the list. I can prove it's in the list by going to orders, and you'll see now here's my alternator that's in the list. We'll go back to select parts, and if I take the check mark out, it just takes it out of the list. So it's real simple to do. From the search results grid, or any grid that has these boxes, because there's one other grid, which is the illustrated parts, associated parts grid, we can put a check mark in here, and that puts that part in the list. Take it out, takes it out of the list. Now, second icon is the camera icon. We're going to come back to that. Third one is your call-out, 10346. That's the Ford parts lingo. Nobody in the world except the Ford or Lincoln Mercury parts person knows that 10346 stands for alternator. That's there. Now we go to the part number field. We've done something a little bit different in the part number field. If there's any alternative part number for the long Ford blue box, in this case red box number because it's motorcraft, we'll allow you to bring that up and view it. So if I click the down arrow, what do we want to see? Well, we want to see motorcraft number. We have GL922, GL974RM. Do we want to see NAGS number? There'll be no NAGS number, no National Auto Glass number because they're not pieces of glass. If we want to go to engineering number, we can queue up the engineering number. Now we put this in here because if we have a difficult lookup or one that we're not sure, something that's a little bit ambiguous, the engineering number is generally the catch-all, be-all, end-all. I can usually change up that engineering number to get to a current valid part number. I might have to go through a few cross-references, but I can do it. The problem is the car is 50 miles away at a customer's location or down in a tech stall. The customer, the tech, doesn't know what to look for. So I tell Tony, the tech, Tony, go. I'm not sure if it's 110, 150 amp alternator. Go back. I think it's this part number. So let's go back now and see if you can get the engineering number off. And the engineering number you're looking for is RM7L3T10300AA. Now Tony knows what to look for, so he's not going to waste his time. So this is an important thing to have there because you can queue up those alternate part numbers and those identification numbers anytime that you need them just by clicking on that down arrow. Now here's the thing you need to remember. If you change this from part number to engineering number or anything else, you want to change it back because it's a global command, and if you leave it set on engineering number and you say you look up at 8200, you're not going to get the part number for it. You're going to get the engineering number because it's locked in, so make sure you set it back. Now our next field is the description of the part. There's the official Ford Motor Company description, but it's underlined, which means it's a hyperlink, and it does something really cool. If I click that underlined hyperlink, it's going to bring up what we call the part data card. A part data card is designed to show you everything that we can about the part in one screen. And you know, we know what goes on in the parts department. We know that you're trying to make 7, 8, 9, 10 decisions about a part or the transaction. And if you do anything wrong, it causes all kinds of multiple problems like a domino effect. So we're going to get you, and while you're trying to do that, you get 2 phones ringing, 3 people at the counter, the UPS guys there waiting for a signature, and you're trying to put all this together in your head and you can't make any mistakes. So here's the information. The top of the gray line is all about identification. Here's your Ford basic part number, your engineering number, your service part number, your motorcraft number, your official description, your from to dates, quantity on the car, quantity that you would order if you transfer it to the list. You have a part note field here that would be active from the screen. So everything above that line is about identifying it. Everything below that line is transactional. Okay, here's the retail price. Here's the dealer price. Maybe somebody says to you, well, you know, I think Napa's got this thing for $210. You want $284. Can you match their price? Well, yeah, you probably can. I mean, here, if you're allowed to, at least it shows you the spread, so you have an idea. Yeah, I could knock 40 bucks off or 30 bucks off and still make some good money. We're also allowed to define all kinds of price levels here. So if we have retail's going to come, when's going to come, and dealer price is going to come automatically. But if we have Casper Body Shop, when we give him a special discount, we have an employee that gets a special discount. A hospital union, a group of employees we offer a discount to. Wholesale levels 1 and 2, core charges, weights, even PDC. If we have parts that are coming from a different PDC, you know, HVC, LVC, HCC, we're going to list all that too, so you can figure out what do I need to sell the part for. You know, is there a core charge? Is there already a matrix price in here? If I need to ship it, here's the weight, so I can calculate the weight. I go into UPS or FedEx online and calculate it. So this part data card does a lot of things. The other thing it does that no other catalog does as well is it allows you to sell the part. Now, if somebody was in there looking for 8, 9, 10 parts, a small body order, you'd probably look them up, put them in the list, and when they're all done, you'd transfer the list to your DMS. But now with the data card here, if you don't want to go, you know, if you just have a one-off, somebody comes in and says, Jack, you got this alternator? Yeah, how much? I can sell it to you for $210. Okay, you got a deal. You click right here, and you launch your emulator, and you're going to bring up your DMS. You're going to bring up the part in the data card. It's going to be right here, and you click transfer, and it's going to go over into your ADP, Reynolds, AutoSoft, whatever system you have. So if you don't need to or want to go through the steps of putting it into the list, accessing the list, and then bringing it out of the list, you can just click this transfer button right here. It launches your integration. I'm using Notepad to mimic it, obviously, and this will stay operating in your background. You know, once you've got it initially launched. All right, so let's go back here now. Any replaced by information, from, to, dates, core charges, notes, things like that are all in this. Now let's access our illustration, and we're going to talk about that last screen, the illustration screen. Data card follows you. You can close that up. And what happens is at the bottom of the screen you have 3 tabs. You have search results, which is my original search. That's in the background. And we leave that there because we're not sure you're done with it. Because it could be a multiple search. You might want to go back to it, pick out a different part number from it. So if I click that, it's going to just show me here's my original search for my alternator. And here's the 2 alternators. When I get to illustrated parts, this gets a little bit different. Let me see if I can explain this. These are actually associated parts, and different catalogs that have different approaches to associated parts. Some let you create custom sections, like 1388s in one section, 19712s in another, 16612 in another, 8200 in another, but they're probably going to be damaged in a front-end wreck, so you can combine those sections, and you know, that's like an old crash book. Nothing wrong with it. We get a little bit more intelligent because we bring the VIN into it, and we say, okay, for this VIN, in this section, and the section represents the parts that are associated with each other, what only fits this VIN? And here's the 8 parts that fit this VIN. Now, to help you understand this a little bit more, if I change one digit in that VIN, 549 to 548, I've got a different truck. If that different truck has a 7.3 diesel with a 250 amp alternator, all these parts down here will probably change. The pulley's going to change, the alternator's going to change, the wiring's going to change, the bracket's going to change, all because of the new conditions brought on by the new VIN. So these are the associated parts. Now, catalog sections just allow you to quickly jump from illustrations. They don't really have anything to do with the results that we're showing here. So let's go back to the illustrated parts. And again, just like in the search results grid, I can put any part I want into the order list. And as I do that, if you go to the order list, you see that order list is growing. When we go back here. Now, there's one other thing I wanted to show you in the part data card that I forgot to show. This bolt here. If I click this bolt and it brings up the part data card, you're going to see now to the right of the dealer price and wins, we have a little box. That box is representative of a package quantity, and that's how many come in the box. That's the smallest amount you can order from Ford is 4. The retail price of each is $1. The cost of the box is $2, so each one of them is 50 cents. So anytime you have a multiple quantity pack, it's going to be shown there. So here's everything. Here's what's going on in this search window here. We have everything associated with the VIN. We have our search results. We have the ability to jump from other sections. We also have the ability here to alter the illustration, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Now, when you start to combine some of these features that are in MicroCAD Live, you can do some pretty incredible things. Let's go back to, we're going to make our work area a little bit smaller. We're going to go back to our VIN details. Let's say that we have a young guy, newer guy, Billy the Kid again. He's working and he gets a call from, Hank's Body Shop or Hank's Garage. Hank says, Billy, I got a 07 F-150. I've got the transfer cases all torn up in the car. I need about 25 parts for it. Here's the last date of the VIN. Let's go. Okay. Billy gets the last date of the VIN from Hank. He puts it in, and he will be at this screen. Second click, Visas information. Third click, case ID. He doesn't have to know any basic numbers or anything. He comes to the case ID. He clicks on the illustration of the case ID. He is now at the proper transfer case for this vehicle without ever knowing anything, without ever knowing a basic number, without ever doing a description search or anything. He doesn't really quite want to be here. He wants to be inside the case because Hank has said he's got a whole bunch of parts inside the case that are damaged. So one last thing. This is 4 clicks to here without knowing any basic numbers or anything else. Your next click is the right click to show the internal components. Now watch here, the 6 parts down here. We're going to change to the 57 VIN-specific parts that are inside this transfer case. So far, Billy's hasn't had to know anything except for the VIN and that the internal components of a major component are the next illustration. That's all he's had to know. Now, what he can do is say, Hank, okay, I got you on the phone here. Let me do this for you. Let me shoot you off the illustration of the parts, and then we can look these up together. But what I'm going to do for you, Hank, is I'm going to include the parts list. Now, when I click this button here, this is something the other catalogs don't do either, is I'm actually creating a catalog for the transfer case, a VIN-specific catalog for the transfer case. The illustration is going to have the VIN, the section, the year, the build date, and then when I click Include Parts, watch what Hank's going to get on the other end. He's going to get the illustration, which we're all familiar with sending. Underneath that, he's going to get the VIN-specific parts for the section. So in effect, he has in his email, in his hands, if he prints it, exactly what we're looking at the dealership. And if he says, okay, well, Billy, I need 7061A, let's go down to part number 6L3Z, 7061A right here. They can look these parts up together. There's not going to be any errors. There's not going to be any mistakes. Maybe Hank is 50 miles away. This is a very expensive repair. Now, you can customize this too. Some people are a little squeamish about sending out part numbers. They don't want people to shop them. Prices, they're afraid that somebody will shop. You can take those off in settings. You don't have to have these on this screen. But you can actually create a VIN-specific sectional catalog for every illustration that's in the vehicle. And again, we're outside the vehicle again, outside the catalog again. So let's just close this up, and we'll go back to the illustration. Let's talk about more of the illustration here. There's a lot of ways you can manipulate this illustration. You can make it larger or smaller with this button right here. You can put it back to 100%, which is the way Ford drew it. We have the ability to add a note to this illustration if we want to, right here by clicking the note icon. And if we do, we have an ability to add a note to any call out by clicking Add Call Out Note. If we put test right here and click Save, you'll see that it's going to pop that icon right up here, and it automatically went on everybody else's screen in the dealership. Don't forget that's shared in the cloud. In an illustration, there's some mouse actions in MicroCAD Live that you need to know about. Let's talk about this. There's 4 of them, and they're really simple. 7A153. All I'm doing is touching it with the mouse, and it's popping up the Ford Motor Company description. 7C122, snap ring. 7A398, planetary. 7B164, hub. Just touch them, and it tells you what they are. Now, Single left click brings up the part data card and allows us to sell the part. Bingo, the guy's on the way to the cashier. So your single left click is going to bring up the data card, show you everything about it, all your pricing information. Here's your PDC codes coming from National Parts Depot. You're not going to get it tomorrow. It's going to be a couple days. It's got a 3R PIP return code from before, and it's got a weight of 2 pounds. Now you double left click, puts it in the list. Okay, and here it is. Here's your ring gear on the list. So mouse over, shows you what it is. Single left click brings up the data card, gives you all the detail, allows you to sell it. Double left click puts it in the list. Now let's go to the planetary gear and let's right click, the last of the 4 actions. And you'll see it brings up a pop-up. Add call-out note, copy number, order one, search parts voice, search D-link inquiry settings, you know, this stuff right here. 2 locators in Microcat Live, parts voice and D2D locator. Let's right-click on parts voice. There's no setup for parts voice. It automatically just tosses this part number out into the parts voice database, opens it up and shows you if anybody has that part. And there's one dealer in Cincinnati that shows that part. Again, we're outside of the catalog. Again, let's close the screen up and go right back to where we were. The same thing would hold true for D2D, only there's a setup and settings. You've got to put your D2D username and password in there. If I want to change the illustration to a side-by-side view rather than an up and down, over and under view, I have an icon right here. Makes it side-by-side. Click it again. It makes it over and under. It's a real simple view. Some of the people that come over from our competitors and get Microcat are used to this view, and so for a while they like to use that. And if they want to put it back over and under, they can right here. The ability to scroll through illustrations is something Microcat Live does better than any other catalog. I can use the right and left arrow keys on my keyboard. I'm going to press the right arrow key. And I'm going to go to the exhaust system, which is the next illustration. The 57 results are going to change to 16. There's a little delay there because what we want to do is we want to show you the illustration immediately. And if you stay there long enough, we say, well, that's the one the guy wants, and we bring down the part information. So that's why that delay is there. You can also accomplish that right here with your arrow buttons and your mouse. Above those arrows, you see here's the 57 parts that fit this VIN from this illustration, is a release of the VIN. It's like a match on, match off of the VIN. If I want to release the VIN, I click this button right here and show non-applicable. Now we're going to change from 57 parts to 64 parts. So here's and what it does is it shows you the right parts, the wrong parts, and the difference between the two. So your right parts are in green. Your wrong parts for the VIN, not the wrong parts for the, it's not a wrong part, it's just the wrong part for the VIN. So it's not a 6L3ZB, it's a 6L3ZB case that fits this vehicle, and XL3ZBA is also a part number out of this illustration. And if I want to put the VIN back on, I just turn this off and it's going to drop the parts down to just the ones that fit the vehicle. Now, again, from this illustration, double click, double click, double click, double click, double click, double click, double click. I'm writing those parts in the order list right here. Now if I go back to select parts, I can also lasso. I can hold the left mouse button down and draw a box. And anything within that box, I can click order, and it'll look up those parts automatically. If something has been replaced, or if it can't get the single part level, don't worry. It's going to stop. It's going to show you. Okay, so Jack, you got a 7045. We have 2 different ones. Which one do you want? So you click on the one that you want. You close it up, and it's in the list. So you can see that our list now is getting quite big. Now, since we're at the list, let's talk about the list, because this is the last thing that's in the cloud, and this is really cool. This order is shared no matter where you look it up, no matter what location. You have a lot of information here. You're able to change pricing, retail, put it back to retail, put it back to wholesale level 2. You can even hide pricing, so there's no pricing in there at all. So you have full control of all the pricing right here. You have a customer tab, so you can put all kinds of information about the customer at the top. You have the ability to sort it by model if there's multiple models. You have the ability to save it, email it, clear it, print it, transfer it. All this functionality is here on this list. But the really cool thing is, let's say let's go back to Hank's garage again. Let's say that this scenario exists. Let's say I'm your outside salesperson, and Hank's is 100 miles away, and I stop into Hank's and I say, and Hank says, boy, Jack, you must have ESP. Really great to see you. I've got an F-150 here. I need a lot of parts for it. I say, okay, Hank, why don't you grab your list? We'll go to Burger King. I'll buy you lunch. He grabs the list. We sit down. I got my little laptop or netbook or Galaxy Tab, and we sit there at Burger King. We'll latch down to their connection, and we go through the list of parts. And we look it up, and we come up with $2,132. And he says, yep, get it for me. Get it as fast as I can, as you can. I want to get the car on Friday. So I just at Burger King type in Hank's garage. And I say, you all set? Yep. His account number is 12345. Maybe he gives me a PO number of 999. You know, we can put that in. We don't need to, but we have the ability to do that. And when he says we're all set, I click save. I'm 100 miles away. Hank goes back to his business and fixes the next car. I call Billy the kid in shipping and receiving. I say, look, I just did $2,000 at Hank's. He needs it right away. Can you pick it, pull it, and ship it? Billy back at the dealership goes to saved orders, pulls up Hank on the screen, clicks transfer. If his in-house system is set up to take all of them, he can click transfer all. He's created the invoice. He's picking, pulling, and shipping. I never had to come back to the dealership. That's the power of the cloud. It lets you get outside of your parts department and do business the way everybody else does, face-to-face. You can now take your wares, which are every single part in the catalog, out to your customers. I mean, who's going to do more? We sell parts the way we were taught, and to be honest with you, the way we were taught to sell parts is kind of the old way. It's like it's the difference of two kids selling lemonade. One builds a stand, puts up a sign, pulls up a stool, it's behind the counter. That's what the typical parts department does today. The new way that Microcat Live allows you to do is to say, well, let's put the lemonade in the wagon, and let's go down to the corner where the guys are repaving the highway and see if we can sell some lemonade. I mean, who's going to do better? Microcat Live lets you get outside of your parts department and do business in other ways. You're totally independent of location, time, device, or connection, and you're able to do things differently. So that's a really cool part of it too. Well, the other thing too is when somebody submits an order from outside, if there's a question about it, this line in the order list is always a true bookmark. It's like a automated validation system, because if I click on this part, this ring gear right here, 7A153, it's going to take me back to the VIN. It's going to take me back to the section. It's going to take me back to the parts data card. It's going to show me everything that it was. I'm at the exact same point back at the dealership as my remote customer, my remote salesman was when he looked the part up. So I can check and make sure that he got the right part. Plus, I'm seeing all the VIN-associated parts in that section. So if I know something he doesn't know about you, well, you're going to need these snap rings and this gasket kit, I'm able to sell that as well. Okay, last thing is settings. And here we have general settings at the top. Part number, you want that set on for your format selection because we want to look up part numbers. Microcat pricing, retail pricing, you can select any of the prices that have been defined in Pricing Administrator. You can agree to show adjustments, taxes, or profits in your order list. I mean, a lot of these things are custom things that you're going to have to play with and see what works best for you. Hometown Ford, call 888. Those are your headers and footers on your documents. Hide part numbers. If I don't want part numbers in those, when I created that VIN-specific catalog for the transfer case, if I didn't want to put part numbers in it, I just click hide part numbers. They wouldn't be there. If I didn't want to have pricing in it, I click no pricing right here, and they would not be in there. On the other side here, show non-applicable parts. You probably want to leave that off. That does the same thing as this little icon right here, the release of the VIN, except this does it for all the parts all the time. And then you're dealing with more data and more part numbers on the screen and everything else. So you probably want to just do it right here back in the catalog itself when you need it. Display group search results when performing basic number searches, and display identification chart records. ID records you want on, because if there's parts list you want to be able to see it. Display group search results when performing basic number search. You need to understand that. Some things are grouped by Ford. Inners, outers, uppers, lowers, rights, lefts. When the group is on, it shows everything. So if you're looking up a right fender, 16005, it's going to show a 16006 at the same time. But other things aren't quite so clear. A 5705 spring bolt and a Focus. There's 5705s that are spring bolts, but there's also boxcar hardware numbers that are spring bolts too. If you have it set on display group, it's going to show you the hardware numbers when you look up the 5705s too. So you got to play with this and you got to understand it. A lot of guys leave this on all the time now. They're dealing with more data from every search, but they're also making sure they don't miss anything. Display motorcraft numbers and orders, display nags numbers and orders. You have the ability to change from motorcraft to long Ford and nags to long Ford in the order list. So this here is really not applicable for a U.S. dealer so much as it is for Canadian dealers and other markets where everything is inventoried under the alternate number. So if you had all your motorcrafts, every single motorcraft part number in your parts department was in your DMS under motorcraft number, you'd check this. But if there's mixed and matched like everybody usually has, then you leave it off. Show vehicle identification panel when loading a VIN. I couldn't imagine anybody not wanting that off. That would hide the VIN information, so you want that on. Personal settings. English US needs to be selected. I'll tell you why. When you look here, you're going to see you have two English. You have English, which is European, Australian English, and you have English US. If you have the wrong one set, things like this can happen to you. My truck is a crew cab. If I don't have English US on it, it's going to be called a double cab. So I'm going to come across double cab and not know what it means. So there is terminology that's specific to English US. You want those on. Prompt for supersession when ordering. If I want Microcat to warn me that a part has been replaced before it puts it in the list, I leave that on. And generally people leave it on. Default search type within the catalog. You can select any one of these. Basic number is generally the one or group number. Anything else would probably not be applicable to a dealer. Colors, they all mean something in Microcat. Green is correct fit, red is incorrect fit, selected fit, and part that's been ordered. If you need to change any of these colors because maybe you can't see green, you click on it and make it whatever you want. Make it pink. And if you want to put it back to the way that the default colors were designed, you click Restore to Default. Play sound on order. There's a little chirp that you can play when you transfer something to the order list. You can try that and leave it on. Show hotspots. Let me show you this one. Some people love this, some people don't. I have it off because, to me, in some illustrations that are busy, like this one of the transfer case, because hotspots puts a box around every number, it tends to, for me to be visually very busy. I just touch the part rather than put the box on, because the box will be color-coded too. And if it's red, that means that particular basic number is not in it. So you can change that to whatever you want. Show screen tips. I definitely would leave that on. Screen tips are these eye sections back here, and they'll show you a little tip about that section of the catalog. Account details. Here's the information we have about you. Take a look at it. If we have something wrong, let us know. We don't want to call you Fred if your name's Charlie. We don't want to send mail to the wrong place. So just take a look at it. If something wrong, give us a call at the 888-929-5599 number. Integration settings. Here's how you set up your D2D locator. Our help desk in Detroit, great bunch of folks that have a lot of experience with the catalog, a lot of experience in dealerships, may have to get in here and tweak something to get your integration working. We integrate just about everything. Like I said, they're a great bunch of people. I wouldn't even waste my time with it. I'd just call them 888-929-5599. Let them hook you all up here or tell you what you need to type in. You have some transfer options, whether you want to transfer to DMS or locators as well. Now the very last thing is help. There's a lot of good things here that you can read at your leisure. Quick reference, getting started, help file, integration guide, video tutorials, credits. But there are two things I want to make sure you're aware of: customer service and submit feedback. Customer service. How do you get a hold of us? Just click that button. We're only a click away. Here's our telephone, our fax, our email, and our hours. We have somebody on the weekends and some holidays with cell phone service that, even if our office is closed. So here's how you get a hold of us. Now, the last thing in here is submit feedback. It's not a perfect world. There's mistakes in every catalog, and don't take this wrong. I'm not picking on the OEM, but most of the mistakes come from the OEM. And if you think about it, there's over 2 million parts in this catalog. If Ford Motor Company was 99.9% right, pure as gold, that would be, 1/10%, a couple thousand errors. You know, it's just a big job, and there's always going to be mistakes. And if it's an older vehicle, you're probably not going to get them to go back and correct the wheel bearing mistake in the 1986 Taurus or Sable, so you put a note in. But when you do come across something, the time to let us know about it is immediately. The mistakes come from three places: the manufacturer, Ford, Microcat, us, and users, you. So what happens when you come across a mistake is that it immediately clocks where you're at. You know, here's the account details, here's the customer service is going to, here's the catalog, the VIN, the build date, the model, the section, the call out, the part number. Just click one or several of these boxes, type in your comments, and click send. We'll have it in a matter of seconds, and we use this as a roadmap to go back and recreate the situation. And if it's Ford's issue, we send it back to them. If it's our issue, we send it to our developers. And if it's your issue, our help desk calls you back and says, here's how we found the part, and then you learn something. So with that, that's kind of Microcat Live, going through it all. It's a great catalog. We're happy to have you as a customer or a prospective client. And if there's anything that you need in addition to what you've just seen, just give us a call at the 888-929-5599. Again, Jack Steinkamp here for Microcat Live. Thanks for tuning in.